Hi. Hello there. How's your mute?
There it is. Hello.
I know, eh? So, how are you, Jeanette?
I'm really great, Diane. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Oh my goodness, what a day, what a day, what a day. So, I want to introduce everyone who's watching this, who will be watching this. This is Janet Zylstra. And of course, you know that I interviewed Janet about a year ago. She is the coordinator of the farmers market at the McBain Community Center. Hello again. So, hello. So I wanted to do a follow-up with you, Janet. I'm just tweaking some things here. I wanted to do a follow-up regarding what's new over the past year till now for Niagara Falls Farmers Market.
Well, one of the most new and exciting things about the market is that this week at the Ontario Fruits and Vegetables Convention, we received an award for the Farmers Market of the Year from Farmers
Oh,
Market Ontario.
oh, that's
So the latest breaking news for our market, and I think we've had a really successful year in the last couple of years, in the last 4 years, but COVID's actually been a great opportunity for us to continue to grow. We've been the last year and the year previous to that at the McBain Community Center, and it's been a great situation for us while we were waiting for the building of the Niagara Falls Exchange. So that's another exciting thing that'll happen this fall. And yeah, so there's lots of excitement, and we're always happy to be able to support local farmers and vendors at the market.
Yeah, for sure. You guys have done a really great job. And I wanted to understand a little bit more too. Have public spaces and other changes created a balance or a challenge for the market and or for yourself coordinating it? If so, how?
Well, I think there has been some challenges in terms of, operating in COVID times and with, the support of public health and the emergency operating committee within Niagara Falls. But I think we actually have found balance.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's a great thing because, farmers markets have been deemed an essential service over the course of the pandemic. And I think that's been a wonderful thing for visibility of farmers markets because you know that we are really supporting local businesses, local farmers. And I think in some of all the challenges within COVID, that has created a little bit of normalcy within unusual times. So for sure, there's been challenges in having to adapt to how many people on site and
Mhm.
how we operate. But that was also a win for us being at the McBain Community Center because we had a little bit more of a chance to spread out. We were completely outdoors. We were able to have space because the community center was closed at that point.
Yeah.
And we were able to open our market, but we thrived within that.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Is there anything that you feel overall that you see coming for the center, for the market overall for yourself, as in your position now, what do you see coming?
What I see coming for the market,
Y-
or
Yeah,
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 I think for the market, once again, this year, we're going to be really excited to start up May 14th, once again, at the McBain Community Center. So we really hope that we're going to continue to see lots of traffic.
mm,
Certainly, receiving this award and being put on being noted the top market in Ontario, I think we're going to have some nice visibility, which ultimately will result in better results for farmers and vendors. So I'm really excited about that. And then on top of that is we are still in the development of opening the Niagara Falls Exchange. So that will be something that will be absolutely incredible into September or fall as it
right.
may come to. So I think there's amazing things on the forefront for the Niagara Falls Farmers Market.
And it's pretty optimistic because, of course, as you mentioned a couple of times now, that food markets are so important for us going forward to really access that as local community participants and individually taking care of ourselves is really important. And I think it's really a beautiful thing when we can access natural foods, foods that aren't processed, that we can learn about how to cook them and keep in contact with that. That's a big part of how individuals, groups of people can learn about how to stay grounded. Food is a huge part of how we stay grounded, because that, of course, is the conduit for all our nutrients and how we keep ourselves energized throughout the day and keep our anxieties at bay. Now, how has the obvious global shift helped the farmers market grow into better serving the community? I mean, outside of what you mentioned so far, is there any one thing that you can mention that you found unique and different?
Hmm. I have a hard time just saying one thing, but I think you're right, is that proactive, grassroots, simplistic approach to being healthy and mindful. I think the pandemic has
Yeah.
simplified a lot of things we do. Is we are very fortunate to have so many opportunities to go out and do all sorts of things in the world and travel and and entertainment and all of those things. But I think the pandemic has only highlighted that sometimes that simplicity
Mm.
and mindfulness of how we approach things, as you talk about nutrition. I mean, that idea that we know where our food comes from when supply chains have been broken and we don't have access to some foods coming from other places, it's
Yeah.
really valuable to know that our farmer within our area is bringing food directly to market from their farm. And I think that kind of sense of simplicity and what our priorities need to be has been a win, and is something that's really special. And I would maybe add one more thing, that
Sure, go
sense of
ahead.
community is the sense of community and being able to, through our market, bring people together, bring local community not-for-profits. We've supported a lot of, a lot of people have really struggled with being able to get those essential foods to their table, to their families. And I think by supporting local not-for-profits through our market events is, maybe we haven't had as much, music or art or fun festivals, but we have been able to support community things to gather food for those who can't access local food, to support our local food banks. And I'm proud of some of those kind of community initiatives that we've been able to accomplish through the market as well.
Oh, that sounds great, because that's something I think is food security is such an important thing. And a lot of the time, especially now during the winter time, it can be so hard for people to access the nutrients that they need. And different programs, different lunch programs, different dinner programs, different ways in which, do you have restaurants participating in any of your programs? As I
Um,
popped into my head just now.
Actually, we have prepared food vendors through our market, and so in many cases, is they're utilizing farm product that they're buying from our local farmers to use in their products. And we really have a diverse group of food vendors, and I think it is wonderful. Something we really noted in the pandemic was a lot of those food vendors were selling out every morning. Like, people were very eager and hungry, for lack of better words,
Yeah.
to see something different and try something new. And with a selection of 30 vendors at our market, they had an opportunity not only to support the farmers, but to try out samosas or tamales or empanadas and, get fresh baked goods. So it was just a win-win in a lot of ways. And I think that, it's nice that we can be part of that experience.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful, because there's a lot of families in need of understanding where they can get their food for a relatively convenient price so that they can continue to feed their families. There's a lot of family food programs as well, and I'm sure that's part of what you're talking about, right? That you're helping the families to get a better sense of how they can continue their own food planning and meal planning.
Well, in that case, I was maybe talking more about our food vendors at market, but I know also there's, my other work that's very meaningful is I'm part-time at the market, but I
Yeah.
also work with Niagara Nutrition Partners, as we have over 180 student nutrition programs that are operated through the school system in Niagara region. And we've definitely seen that there has been a lot of need in terms of families out there. You know, I think when we're all separated from one another, you recognize that we don't know some of those challenges, and maybe families that had worked with emergency food banks before, maybe didn't have, some families didn't have knowledge of them or didn't have access to them as readily, and maybe haven't had to access them before. So there is a whole area of people that really needed support with food. And I know through Niagara Nutrition Partners, we've done a lot of outreach with grocery gift cards and farm to school and farm to family programs to help to serve that need as well. So there are so many things associated with that food security that have needed to be addressed in the course of the pandemic. And there's been lots of inroads, even though we don't always see them on a day-to-day basis. I know there are a lot of community initiatives that are trying to fill those needs as we see them arise.
That's wonderful. And are you seeing it as a way to improving not only food security, but job security in a lot of ways? It sounds like. Would you say, or am I touching on that just a little bit there? As truth?
I mean, I maybe couldn't speak to the job security of things, but going back to your original point is, I think in a lot of cases when we are able to have nutrients for our bodies and souls, then we are more proactive in our well-being. And I think that's been incredibly important throughout the pandemic. Is, of course, there's fears and anxieties about what it looks like and how to go forward. Excuse me. But I think at the end of the day is all of those kind of proactive solutions can help to the end result. So, so for sure, I know that a lot of businesses and farms have struggled by how they've run their farms, because they've had to have different packaging opportunities, different things to kind of operate in COVID and make the food safe. And even in our nutrition programs, foods have had to be prepackaged, and the expense has risen. But I think that there has been new channels that have formed, and in some ways, yeah, maybe they have helped businesses or farmers solidify things, but it's an uneven playing field. We're trying to forge a new path. So it's not a one size fits all kind of solution.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a touch and go. It's an ebb and flow, and people are just trying to find their place going forward. And over the 2 years now, we've all had our challenges in those areas about how to grow and how to adapt. And it sounds like Farmers Market, the nutrition program that you work with as well, and the people that you're collaborating with are all finding their way, finding their footing. So what do you think other businesses in Niagara could learn from the Farmers Market, your nutrition program that you're involved with and working for? What do you think are the takeaways that folks could learn about from that if they're listening in and wanting to understand how to find one thing that they could do that could help them feel a little bit more motivated and to keep on going?
I think in the pandemic is where, you know, here we're interacting still through Zoom calls and devices. So I mean, the idea of actually seeing someone's whole face, or then also meeting with someone in person, is so amazing. Like our convention this week was actually in person, which, you know, of course we were all masked up at this point, but to see people and be connected. And I think that sense of community is just that, is that outreach, is finding those kind of partnerships that we have in the community. And I think that's something we have done a good job with through the market, is trying to reach out to the community and find a way to bridge some of those gaps, because, you know, we're still going to have to find new ways to do things, and doing those outreach. I think businesses, if they are able to find a way to partner with maybe a not-for-profit or maybe another business, or through markets, whether it be farmers markets or markets on the whole, is all of those opportunities are ways to still have those kind of sense of connectivity. You know, like it's trying to find, I kind of have that idea, like when you can hold, we can't hold hands, but we're still finding ways to hold hands together in the community so that we're not all operating in our own little bubbles, but we can find a way to still grow together when we're apart.
Yeah,
And I hope we feel that more connection in the future, but I think that finding new ways to have community is super important.
yeah, finding new ways to have community has been the challenge, and it's certainly been the growing curve, hasn't it? And I think it's so great that we're being tested in this way because it's showing our resilience. And it's really challenging us to use our brains in a different way. And of course, I'm a big fan of neuroplasticity because of what I teach. I teach about people learning new ways to cope with things as they go along. And I think, you know what, from what you've told me and what I've seen, it looks like the farmers market is weathering it nicely and really trying to reshape the future of farmers market and how that's being adaptable to the community, because the community is changing as well. Their needs are so different now in many ways from before. Yes, everyone still wants to eat really fresh foods, but how people are accessing the knowledge of food is different. So now they're looking for different types of food to get, and how the market adapts to accommodating that is such a big forward movement. And I think it's so important to look at how that comes into play as well. And you talk a lot about how the interactivity between the different parts of that delivery takes shape over time and has become such an important part of how you're doing your work as the coordinator. And I also wanted to ask you this, seeing as how you're working so hard, how are you doing?
Oh. Well, you know, here it is, like I admire the work that you do in reaching out to people and creating, you know, obviously there's been highs and lows in the pandemic. When we talked before, is, you know, we're all trying to find a way to cope, and you know, now 2 years in is we're coping differently.
Yeah.
And you know, look, it was an exciting week for me this week with being, you know, in person and having awards. Is, you know, I have absolutely experienced highs and lows in this. And you know, I know that there are people who have struggled with, you know, food, like getting food on their families' tables,
Mm,
struggled with job, with work, having to find new ways. And you know, that struggle is real for me and my family too.
yeah.
You know, is we were so blessed in so many ways. And but it's not without its trials and tribulations. So, you know, I think it is really important to reach out and try to find the way to impact people where you can.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
we all need to meet people where we're at. There's certain things that I feel like I absolutely feel like I've had meaningful work throughout the pandemic. And I feel fortunate that our families had the support of one another in our household. We have 4 kids, and I feel like we are so lucky that we have one another to lean on, and that we have those discussions and we're finding our way through. But there are days that are absolute struggles. And sometimes you do feel very alone because, you know, we can be connecting this way, but on another level, we're just so removed from everyone. All those people that I would see, you know, dropping off the kids at school or volunteering or in person at work, even having the market closed over the course of the winter months. I greatly miss my weekly customers at market, and we served over 30,000 customers last year.
Wow. Wow.
So there's a lot of people I'm missing. So, but I think it's also that I think there will be an opportunity to grow again and
I
to
believe so.
find new avenues and new ways to be together again. And that part I'm absolutely looking forward to.
Yeah.
So, and you know, and yeah, and having an opportunity to speak with you again, it's amazing because, you know, we may not be together, but those feelings, the feeling of connectedness are reignited when we are
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that too, right? Because when when I get to speak to someone, even through this medium, I still feel that connectivity when I would meet with you in person. It's still the same feeling, and I'm thinking, wow, it would be great to see her in person, you know, because yeah, it's few and far between now when we see each other in person. And so adapting to this medium, and now it's a more of a consistency uh, in my work, what I do, in using the online to speak to people or to present something or to teach something. So yeah, it was quite a learning curve for me as well. So I can see exactly what you're meaning, where it's about missing people, even though we are interacting with them, it's missing that longer connectivity in person with someone, because it feels a little bit more transitional in this way, our meetups, doesn't it? When we're meeting in person
And
sometimes.
and there's absolutely things that you recognize that you miss when you're in person. You know, you're seeing someone this way. This is
Yeah.
all you're seeing
Yeah.
their eyes.
Yeah.
And
And it's
you
like,
know,
oh, I'm smiling right here. Yeah. I'm still smiling. Yeah.
you know, there's subtle things that you don't even recognize, smells
Yeah.
and you know, and just I don't know, there's so many things, you know, like here we're having a lovely conversation today, but my natural instinct is that connectedness that I feel with people. I'm a hugger, is, you know, I miss that
Yeah.
also, that touch, even if it in a simple way. So, I mean, all of those things, hopefully we will find the way to reignite all of our senses as
Yeah.
we go forward. And hopefully we will also be internally grateful to reawaken all of those pieces of our interactions with other humans, and trying to find the way to be that we are more alike than we are different.
So
And
true.
I think sometimes we forget that in all of the separation, that we are all human trying to find our way through, and we may have differences and we may have separations, or you know, different paths, but there's a humanity to it. And if we can find that way to bridge that gap, and well, and I guess at the market we do it through our local produce, so
Yeah.
I'm grateful that I have that experience.
Well, I'm so glad to hear you say that, because it is so true about creating that connection, and keeping that connection, and reminding ourselves that of our human qualities, and not that we're becoming inhuman. It's just, keeping in touch with that is so
Mhm.
important to our well-being. And anxiety can creep up in different ways for folks. And when we remember to connect to that part of ourselves,
Mhm.
through any which way, through a phone call, through a Zoom call, through meeting up with someone with our mask on, etc., and what have you.
Mhm.
Make sure you keep that human contact, and that challenge or advantage can really grow us in different ways. That makes us stronger, right? And
Yeah.
I do believe we're stronger for it. I do believe we are.
I sure
Right?
hope so, because you know, I think you use that word resilience is,
Mhm.
you know, hopefully we have dug deep in how resilient we can be,
Yes.
and that we recognize that after we come out of this, not just this winter, this frozen space and time, but
Mhm.
that we use all of that we've learned in the last couple of years to do better, to be better, to be kinder, and to be grateful, to be absolutely grateful for the things we have.
Yes, the G word, grateful, and having that gratitude, on a daily basis, can boost the immune system so much.
Mhm.
And when I teach people about gratitude, some people are kind of iffy about it. They think, why are you talking about gratitude in the midst of a crisis? But it
Mhm.
is exactly at that time that it helps us to understand, okay, let's check what's here versus what's not here, so
Mhm.
that there's a balance. There has to be that balance. And I think that's what gratitude brings to our sense of being who we are as individuals and as a community. What do we have still in place? What are we transitioning and growing more of? As opposed to what's depleting and what's being taken away and what's not happening and what's wrong. That has its place, but so does what do we still have and what are we making more of. And I think that's just, yeah, the balancing act, right?
Mhm. And here I look over your shoulder and you have that lovely love beside your shoulder there.
Yeah.
And I think that's it, right? I mean, I won't deny that all of this has created a lot of fear, or like you say, anxiety or fear about what what will happen and what will be. And it really has been a mindful process to continue to live in love as opposed to that fear, because there's going to be things that we can't control, and we need to try to still lean forward into more of that sense of love than hanging out with fear. And it's not easy. It can be
Mm.
a huge struggle, absolutely huge struggle. Like
Yeah.
I feel. And but it's when we talk to someone like you who really does exude love and a wonderful sense of purpose, that you remind yourself as well that we need to find better ways, and that there is so much goodness out there, and lots of things to look forward to.
Oh,
And be
definitely, definitely. And don't feel bad if you slip off the wagon of gratitude. Just know that you can always bring it back. You can always bring it back. It's always there for you,
you
right?
gotta get back
Yeah.
on the wagon
You get
sometime.
back on that wagon. You can do it. You can do it, right? And yeah, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't judge yourself harshly. Just, you know,
Yeah.
compassion for yourself is equally important as being compassionate towards someone else, right? And so yeah, just find the simplest things that makes you feel more buoyant as opposed to depleted, and, right?
It's funny you say about buoyancy, because one of my analogies over COVID has been the lily pad. I'm just trying to find a way to get to the next lily pad and not fall
Yeah,
in the water.
yeah, one
You know,
at a
it-
time.
it's floating around, and some days it's hard not to fall in, but like it's still, you're just trying to jump to the next one and hope for the best, and
Yeah,
just find that buoyancy is exactly
yeah,
another
yeah,
thing.
yeah. And yeah, and it's about taking that one step at a time, that one day at a time, right?
Yeah.
And call someone if you need to talk to someone. Reach out to that person that can listen, um, and offer that sort of support as well. That's a big part of gratitude as well, to know who to speak to when you need that sort of reminder, right? Yeah.
Well, you're a wonderful reminder today, because you do
Oh,
you really exude that kind of lovely feeling. So I will soak that up. Thank you.
oh, wonderful. And more going out to you. All right. Well, gee, Janet, thank you so much for your time. Our time's up already. Goes so
You guys.
fast. I really enjoyed talking to you. And of course, I'd love to talk to you again at another time. But yeah, keep me posted about what's going on with the nutrition program, with farmers market, and other activities that you mentioned as well. Just send me a link to that,
Okay.
and I'll post it, of course, on my page, and to let everyone know where to get fresh food and where to find out more about nutrition and
There
all of
you
that
go.
good stuff. Okay.
Here we go again.
Here we go. All right, here we grow
Thanks
again.
so
Yeah,
much, Diane. You have a
thank
wonderful
you. You have a
day.
beautiful day. All right, we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Namaste. Namaste.